There are cars out there that cost less than your monthly rent and will outlive your landlord. Today, I'm showing you 3 cheap cars that are so reliable, mechanics actually hate them because they never break down. Seriously, one of these might be the last car you ever need to buy. Stick around because number 3, that one's almost unfair.
All right, so car number 1, and I need you to hear me out on this one because when I say this name, some of you are going to roll your eyes, but by the end of this, you'll be searching for one online. I'm talking about the Nissan Kicks. Yeah, the Kicks, the little crossover that most people walk right past at the dealership without even looking at it. And honestly, that's exactly why it's on this list. Because while everyone else is fighting over RAV4s and CR-Vs and paying way too much for them, the Kicks is just sitting there, quietly being one of the smartest buys in the entire market. It's like that kid in school who never raised their hand but somehow aced every single test. Now here's what makes this thing so interesting. Nissan gave the Kicks their 1.6-liter 4-cylinder engine. And look, nobody is going to confuse this with a sports car. It makes about 122 horsepower. And yeah, that sounds tiny, but here's the thing most people don't understand about reliability. Boring engines last forever. This isn't a turbocharged, direct-injected, overcomplicated mess that's going to give you problems at 60,000 miles. This is a naturally aspirated, port-injected, simple engine that just wants to do its job and go home. There's no turbo to fail, no high-pressure fuel pump to replace, no timing chain tension or drama. It's the kind of powertrain that a mechanic looks at and says, yeah, I've got nothing to do here. See you next oil change. And speaking of transmissions, the Kicks uses a CVT, which I know, CVTs have a reputation, but Nissan actually learned from their past mistakes here. The unit in the Kicks is Nissan's updated Xtronic CVT, and because the Kicks is a lightweight vehicle, we're talking around 2,700 pounds, that transmission is not under the kind of stress that destroyed CVTs in heavier Nissans like the older Altimas and Rogues. Less weight means less heat means less wear, and less wear means that transmission is going to keep going for a very long time. It's like asking a marathon runner to jog a 5K instead. They're barely breaking a sweat. Now, let's talk about what you're actually getting for the money, because this is where the Kick starts to feel like you're cheating the system. Depending on the model year and trim, you can find these with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, a really solid around view monitor camera system that Nissan is genuinely great at, automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, and blind spot monitoring. That's a lot of tech for a car that you can find used for under $15,000. Some of you are paying more than that for a used Civic with 90,000 miles on it. Just let that sink in for a second. Fuel economy is another place where the Kicks is honestly kind of a cheat code. You're looking at around 31 in the city and 36 on the highway, and in real-world driving, most owners report getting somewhere in the low 30s combined without even trying. So you're spending less to buy it and less to feed it. Your wallet is going to send you a thank you card. But okay, I promised you the real talk, so let's get into what you need to watch out for. First thing, if you're looking at a used Kicks, check the CVT fluid. Seriously, don't skip this. Nissan recommends changing it every 60,000 miles, but a lot of owners never do it because nobody told them. If the fluid is dark or smells burnt, either negotiate the price down to cover a fluid change or walk away. A well-maintained CVT in a Kicks will last well over 150,000 miles. A neglected one is a different story entirely. Second point of attention, the Kicks is not a powerful car, and if you're test driving one and you feel like it's sluggish getting onto the highway, that's actually normal. Don't panic thinking something is wrong with it. But if you feel any shuddering or jerking at low speeds, especially between 15 and 30 miles per hour, that could be an early sign of CVT issues, and you should move on to the next one. Third thing, and this one's easy to miss, check the suspension. The Kicks rides a little firm from the factory, which is fine, but if you're hearing clunking or knocking over bumps, the front struts or stabilizer bar links might be worn. It's not an expensive fix, but it's a negotiating tool when you're buying, and you should absolutely use it. And here's one more thing I want you to know. The Kicks doesn't have all-wheel drive. It's front-wheel drive only. So if you live somewhere with serious winters, you're going to want a good set of winter tires. But honestly, front-wheel drive with proper tires will get most people through just about anything short of a blizzard. Don't let the lack of AWD scare you off. Let it scare off other buyers so you get a better deal. So that's the Nissan Kicks. Cheap to buy, cheap to run, loaded with tech, and reliable enough to make your mechanic consider a career change. It's not flashy, it's not fast, and it will never turn heads in a parking lot. But you know what it will do? It'll start every single morning without complaining. And honestly, can you say the same about yourself? I know I can't. Now, if you think the Kicks is a good deal, wait until you see what's next, because car number 2 on this list might actually be the best kept secret in the entire used car market right now. You're not going to want to miss this one. Okay, car number 2. And this is where things get a little controversial, because I'm about to defend a brand that a lot of people love to trash. I'm talking about Volkswagen, specifically the Volkswagen Jetta. And before you flood the comments with German cars are money pits and my cousin's Jetta left him stranded twice, just give me 4 minutes, because the Jetta I'm talking about is not the Jetta your cousin had. Volkswagen made some very specific changes that turned this car into something that, honestly, most people have completely overlooked. And that's great news for you, because it means the prices are way lower than they should be. So let's start with the elephant in the room, the engine. The newer Jettas, and I'm talking 2019 and up, the 7th generation, they come with a 1.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. Now, I just told you with the Kicks that simple, naturally aspirated engines are the reliability kings, so why am I now recommending a turbo? Fair question. Here's the answer. This specific engine, Volkswagen's EA211, is not your typical over-engineered European nightmare. This little 1.4 turbo has been used across millions of vehicles worldwide, in Volkswagens, in Audis, in Seats, in Skodas, all over the planet for years. It has a proven track record that most people in this market don't even know about because they never bothered to look past the badge on the hood. It produces around 150 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque, and that torque number is the key, because it means this car actually feels quick in daily driving, without the engine having to work hard at all. It's doing everything at a comfortable cruise, while other small engines are screaming their lungs out on the highway. Now here's something that really sets the Jetta apart, and honestly, this is one of the main reasons it's on this list: the transmission. Volkswagen offers the Jetta with a traditional 6-speed manual and an 8-speed torque converter automatic. Read that again, an 8-speed torque converter automatic. Not a CVT, not a dual clutch that's going to shudder in stop-and-go traffic and cost you $2,000 to fix. A proper, conventional 8-speed automatic that shifts smoothly, handles city driving without drama, and has a long, well-documented history of durability. When Volkswagen ditched the DSG dual-clutch transmission in the base Jetta and went with this Aisin 8-speed unit, they basically removed the single biggest reliability complaint people had about their cars. It was like a chef who kept burning the bread, finally deciding to just buy a better oven. Problem solved. And the driving experience. This is where the Jetta earns something that most cars in this price point can't even dream of: respect. This car feels solid. When you close the door, you hear that tight, confident thud, not a hollow tin can clap. On the highway, it's composed and quiet in a way that makes you forget you're driving a car that costs less than most people's kitchen renovation. The suspension is tuned for comfort, but with just enough firmness that you actually feel connected to the road. It's a German sedan, and it drives like one. Most of its competitors at this price point feel like appliances. The Jetta feels like someone actually cared about how it drives. Interior quality is another area where the Jetta punches above its weight. You get a clean, well-organized dashboard, a responsive infotainment system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and the materials, while not luxury level, are a noticeable step up from what you'd find in most economy sedans. The seats are comfortable for long drives, the back seat actually has decent legroom for a compact car, and the trunk is genuinely massive, over 14 cubic feet. You could fit a body in there. I mean, luggage. You could fit luggage in there. Obviously, luggage. Moving on. Fuel economy is another win. You're looking at around 30 in the city and 40 on the highway with the automatic. And those numbers are real. Owners consistently back them up.
Some people on long highway trips report getting into the mid-40s, which is hybrid territory from a non-hybrid car. So you've got a car that's fun to drive, feels premium, and sips fuel like it's trying to save money for retirement. Now, the real talk. What do you need to watch when buying a used Jetta? First and most important, the model year matters enormously. I am specifically recommending the 2019 and newer 7th generation. The older Jettas, especially anything with the 1.8 or 2.0 turbo and the DSG dual clutch transmission, that's a completely different conversation with completely different problems. If someone tries to sell you a 2015 Jetta and says it's basically the same thing, it is absolutely not the same thing. Walk away and don't look back. Second, even though the 1.4 turbo is a reliable engine, it is still a turbocharged direct-injected motor, which means carbon buildup on the intake valves is a real thing over time. Ask if a walnut blast or intake cleaning has ever been done, especially on cars over 80,000 miles. If it hasn't, that's not a deal breaker, but it is something you'll want to budget for eventually. It's a maintenance item, not a defect, and it'll keep the engine running strong for years to come. Third thing, check the water pump. Volkswagen's EA211 engine uses an electric water pump, and while failures aren't extremely common, they do happen, and if it goes, the car can overheat quickly. During your test drive, keep an eye on the temperature gauge. It should sit perfectly steady right in the middle. Any fluctuation at all, and you should ask questions. And finally, if you're looking at higher mileage examples, have someone check the front control arm bushings. They tend to wear out over time, and you'll notice a slight wobble or vagueness in the steering. Replacement isn't wildly expensive, but again, it's a bargaining chip you should know about before you sit down to negotiate. So, there you have it, the Volkswagen Jetta. A German sedan that drives like it costs twice as much, sips fuel like an economy car, and with the right generation and the right maintenance, will run reliably for years without giving you any of the stereotypical German car headaches. It's the car that proves Volkswagen actually does mean people's car. They just needed a few generations to remember that. All right, now take a deep breath, because what I'm about to show you next, car number 3, this is the one I teased at the beginning of the video, and I wasn't exaggerating. If you only remember one car from this entire list, make it this one.
All right, here it is. Car number 3, the one I told you about at the very beginning of this video. The one I said was almost unfair, and I meant every word of that, because this car has no business being this good at this price. I'm talking about the Mazda 3. And I know some of you just sat up a little straighter because if you know, you know. But if you don't know yet, strap in, because what I'm about to tell you might genuinely change the way you think about what a cheap car can be. See, every car company has a philosophy. Some focus on making cars as cheap as possible, some focus on loading up features to win spec sheet battles at the dealership, and then there's Mazda, who apparently woke up one day and decided that they were going to build cars the way a small luxury brand would, but sell them at mainstream prices, and just quietly accept that most people would never notice. That's the Mazda 3 in a nutshell. It's a car built by engineers who seem personally offended by the idea of cutting corners, and that obsession with doing things right is exactly what makes it one of the most reliable vehicles you can buy today. Let's get into the heart of it. The Skyactiv G 2.5-liter 4-cylinder. This is a naturally aspirated port and direct injection combo motor that makes around 186 horsepower. And I need you to understand something about this engine that very few people talk about. Mazda achieved one of the highest compression ratios of any production gasoline engine in the world with this thing, 13:1. For context, most engines run around 10 or 11:1. A higher compression ratio means the engine extracts more energy from every drop of fuel, which means it works less to produce more. It's not just efficient, it's mechanically brilliant. And because Mazda paired both port and direct injection together, they essentially solved the carbon buildup problem that plagues most modern direct injected engines. Remember how I just told you with the Jetta to watch for carbon buildup? The Mazda 3 looked at that problem and said, no thanks, we'd rather not. The port injectors wash the valves clean while the direct injectors handle performance. It's elegant engineering, and it's a huge part of why these engines just keep running without drama.
The transmission situation is equally impressive. You get a 6-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual depending on the year and trim, and that automatic is a real torque converter unit. No CVT nonsense, no complicated dual clutch, just a smooth, proven, traditional automatic that has been one of the most trouble-free gearboxes in the entire industry. Mazda basically looked at every other manufacturer chasing the latest transmission trend and said, "We're good, thanks." And you know what? They were right. Sometimes the best innovation is knowing when not to change something that already works perfectly. Now here's where the Mazda 3 becomes genuinely unfair to its competition. This car drives like nothing else in its class. And I don't mean it's fine. I don't mean it's acceptable. I mean you sit in this car, you pull out of a parking lot, and within 30 seconds you realize that something is different. The steering has weight and precision. The chassis feels balanced and planted. The body barely rolls through corners. Every input you give the car, it responds like it's actually listening to you. Most economy cars drive like they're tolerating you. The Mazda 3 drives like it was waiting for you. It genuinely makes a Tuesday morning commute feel like something you don't completely hate. And if a car can do that, it deserves some kind of award. And then you look at the interior and it gets even more ridiculous. The 4th generation, 2019 and newer, has a cabin that made automotive journalists stop mid-review and ask, "Wait, how much does this cost again?" Clean, minimalist design, soft touch materials where your hands actually rest, a beautifully simple gauge cluster, the kind of restrained elegance that feels like someone studied Audi's interior playbook and then executed it on half the budget. There's no desperate need to cover every surface in piano black plastic or fake carbon fiber. It's just genuinely, confidently good. It's the car equivalent of someone who dresses well without trying too hard. You know that person. We all want to be that person. The Mazda 3 is that person. Fuel economy sits at around 26 in the city and 35 on the highway for the 2.5 liter, which is solid for a naturally aspirated engine with this much power. You're not going to set any hypermiling records, but you're also not going to wince every time you pull up to the pump. It's balanced, like everything else about this car. Okay, real talk time. What do you look out for? First thing, if you're buying a 2019 or newer Mazda 3, pay close attention to the infotainment system. Mazda removed the touchscreen and went with a rotary controller dial only. Some people love it, some people find it frustrating, especially when trying to input addresses into navigation. It's not a reliability problem, it's a usability thing you want to make sure you're okay with before you commit. Test it during the drive, don't find out 3 weeks later that it drives you crazy. Second, check for paint condition. And I'm not being superficial here, this is a known thing. Mazda's paint, particularly on darker colors like the gorgeous machine gray and soul red crystal, tends to be on the thinner side than competitors. It's not a mechanical issue, but if you're buying used and the car looks like it went through a hailstorm of tiny rocks, factor in the cost of a paint correction or ceramic coating to protect it going forward. Third point, on the 4th generation models with the independent rear suspension, listen for any knocking or clunking from the back end over rough roads. The rear suspension is more sophisticated than the previous generation's torsion beam setup, which is great for handling, but it does mean there are more components that can wear over time. Bushings and rear shocks are the usual culprits. Not expensive to address, but good to know about before you negotiate. And lastly, one thing that surprises people, the back seat and trunk are a bit smaller than you might expect for a car this size, especially on the hatchback version. If you need maximum rear passenger room, sit in the back before you buy it. The sedan has a slightly more generous trunk. It's not a deal breaker for most people, but if you regularly carry adults in the back seat, you want to make that call with your eyes open. So there it is, the Mazda 3, a car that refuses to be ordinary, costs the same as ordinary, and will reliably serve you for years while making every single drive feel just a little bit special. If the Kicks is the smart, quiet kid and the Jetta is the underrated exchange student, then the Mazda 3 is the one who shows up to the reunion looking better than everyone and somehow still being the nicest person in the room.
And that wraps up our 3 cheap cars that are truly reliable. The Nissan Kicks, the Volkswagen Jetta, and the Mazda 3. 3 very different cars, 3 very different personalities, but all 3 share the same superpower. They will not let you down. Now here's what I need you to do. If this video helped you, if it saved you from making a bad decision, or pointed you toward a car you hadn't considered, smash that like button, because it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need this information. Drop a comment telling me which one of these 3 you'd actually buy. I read every single one, and I will argue with you respectfully if I disagree. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video, because I've got a lot more lists like this coming. And trust me, you do not want to be the person who buys a car the week before I tell the world not to. I'll see you in the next one.